Ready to connect. Click Connect to show now.
In the chat, if you could go ahead and let me know if you could hear me okay, and if and just let me know if you can hear what I'm saying. We're going to go live at about 4 o'clock in just a little bit to talk about this one because we have a ton to talk about when it comes to this game. Again, we'll be getting going here at about 4 o'clock, letting Don Fisher finish up his post game, and then we'll be able to take calls, and hopefully we'll have plenty of calls because there's a lot to talk about with this game. Obviously, it's I have a lot to say about this one. I'll just let you know that. So, looking forward to it. We'll give about another 10 minutes, and we'll be ready to go. How you doing, everybody? I'm Ken Bykoff, and welcome to the Peegs Postgame Live. Indiana walks away 38-15 losers in Columbus as the Hoosiers open their unbeaten streak comes to an end with a loss to number 2 team in the nation. A game that Hoosiers started very strong, really had a lot of letdowns when it comes to the special teams. The offensive line didn't play very well, and Indiana goes down to a superior team. It's that simple. Now, there's a ton to talk about with this game because the Hoosiers had those 14 points that they gave up in the special teams, basically 14 points because you had a fumble that was on a botched punt. That was an issue. You had a punt return, which I felt was kind of popped by a missed block in the back. But this is an Indiana team that just struggled to move the ball. 151 total yards on the day. No question, Indiana's worst offensive game of the season. Ran the ball decently. They had 41 carries for 83 yards, but 23 Indiana lost 23 yards on the James Evans muff. Curtis Rourke getting sacked a pile of times cost him another 33 yards. So between Tyson Lawton and Justice Ellison, Indiana ran the ball 32 times for 141 yards, I believe is the number there. But just couldn't get things going after the very start. 812-393-2600 is the number, and lines are open. I'm excited to talk about this one because I'm going to tell you this. I'm not somebody who's disheartened by this loss. It's unfortunate. I thought Indiana did what it could to battle. Indiana's not ready to win a game like this. People were asking me all during the week, do you think they could win? Do you think they could win? I'll believe they can win one of these games when they win one of these games, but they haven't done that, and they haven't really come close. So when you're talking about a team that has a vastly superior pool of talent, you have to play almost a perfect game. And that's not at all what happened with Indiana. Their first quarter was solid. They looked very good. Then you look at Ohio State's drive chart, especially in the second quarter. They had 3 drives in the second quarter. One started on the Indiana 44, one on the Indiana 18, one on the Indiana 7. And those led to 14 points. Right there, Indiana managed an interception to shut down one of them, but the Hoosiers were playing on a short field most of the way out. So really, really frustrating to watch because you felt that people are looking for any excuse to kind of discount Indiana and disrespect anything that they've done this year. And when you have those kind of mistakes, it really it builds up. So that's really kind of the unfortunate thing. Now, we had a caller that I was about to bring on, lost him somehow. So call back if you would, please, 812-393-2600. Let's just start with a little bit here on the chat. Jim says, Ryan Day is a poor sport, bad winner. I thought it was interesting how the announcers were bragging about the character of the Ohio State team on the play of the kids sliding and not scoring. Well, there's style points, and they want to make sure that they get the attention because they wanted that extra touchdown to make the margin look worse. So, yeah, I understand the whole thing about being a poor sport, but by that same token, I really feel like that's one of those things that just has to be done in this day and age. That's what it is. Ferris thoughts, which I assume is a Ferris State reference, which I actually know somebody who graduated from there, who says, good to see Indiana having a great season. We needed a strong conference. Agree with that completely. We have a caller that called in. Hopefully this is going to go through flawless. Caller, if I can have your name, where you're from, and what you got.
Hello, this is Matt from Ohio. How are you?
Hi, Matt. How are you doing?
I'm great. I just wanted to say that was a great game. Obviously, I'm a big Buckeyes fan, but you guys have a great head coach, a really great program brewing, and I wish you nothing but the best. Today was just really, Indiana's got to really figure out what it's like to win in those big games, and that just takes time. And, I think they'll get there. I think they got the right guy. But, there's a big talent gap, too, so don't want to discount that. I mean, Ohio State's got a ton of talent. You guys have some really great players too. A couple of those guys are beasts, but just a great game and a great program. And we need a strong Indiana for a strong Big Ten.
Well, Matt, one of the things that I thought about during the game was the fact that sometimes you have to lose some of these games to figure out how to win them. And Curt Cignetti and his crew haven't really been in one that was quite this size. And so to me, there are some lessons that can be learned from a game like this in that atmosphere. To me, it's a little bit of the development of the IU program, and Ohio State certainly has been through this an absolute ton. You mentioned about wanting to have different, a strong conference. How do you think this game may have helped the Buckeyes?
Well, I think obviously anytime you play a big matchup, winning those just is a big confidence booster. I mean, look at Ohio State's loss to Oregon earlier in the year, right? Go on the road, tough atmosphere, tough loss. These top 5, top 10 matchups are tough, and you'd like to think you win more than you lose some, but look at Day's record, look at a lot of other top coaches and stuff. These are tough games, and there's a reason why nobody has save maybe Nick Saban, why their records are just, if you're around 500 in these matchups, sometimes that's a good performance. We all hate it as fans. To lose games like that, but that's just the reality of the sport. These are tough games.
Well, Matt, I certainly appreciate the call. I appreciate the kind words. Thank you so much for coming on, and best of luck against the Wolverines.
Hey, good luck to you guys too. Thanks.
Appreciate it. 812-393-2600 is the number. One of the things that was a little disappointing was the offensive line play today. I feel that the Hoosiers, some of their protection schemes were rather odd. You had some situations where you had left tackle diving in to block inside, and they were trying to pull the offensive right guard to come over and block one of the speedy rush defensive ends, and they failed time and time again. It's the first time I've seen Curtis Rourke rattled this year. And so that was a little bit frustrating. I felt Indiana maybe could have run the ball a little bit more than they did. And this is the first time we've seen this Indiana offense get rattled along the way. So, that's just kind of where we are with this. 38-15 final, 812-393-2600 is the number. Now, I'm going to bring you Curt Cignetti's post-game press conference. Haven't been able to do that at this point, to this point in the season, but I'm going to bring that to you. But first, I wanted to, we have another caller in the queue, wanted to bring him on. Caller, if you give you your name, where you're from, and what you got.
Troy from Elkhart.
Hi, Troy. How you doing?
Not bad, outside of a not so enjoyable game.
Yeah.
Just want to say I thought we would have learned a lesson from the second half of the Michigan game, in terms of offensive output. The defensive line of Michigan getting at us, and we would have been better prepared and been able to make in-game adjustments to what Ohio State's defense was doing against us. So that was my disappointment in the game, and obviously the two situations in the special teams.
Yeah, those were killers.
14 points. Yeah, but I just thought, I figured, I do believe in the coordinators, offensive and defensive coordinators and Coach Cignetti, and I just figured we would have had a better strategy. We know what Ohio State can do, and what their defensive line could do against our offensive line, and games are, as everyone said, games are won in the trenches, and we clearly lost.
Yeah, and again, that's where Rourke got a little bit rattled. So when they tried to run those quick throws, those quick screens, that accuracy that he's had this year kind of suffered right there. But yeah, I would have liked to have seen them maybe run a little bit more quick stuff, some slants to go ahead and take some of the steam out of that pass rush and just give him a little bit more time. That adjustment, I think, is going to be important. Plus, Indiana's receivers dropped a few balls today that did not help. So there was a lot of things where I think the moment was a little bit too big at times for this IU team, but it's something that they could build on, certainly to say the least.
definitely. I mean, hey, we're going to beat Purdue next week. I'm going to be at that game, and we're going to have a great season, the best season we've ever had. So, it's something we can certainly learn from and be prepared. The next time we play OSU and the other big boys in the conference.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. Hope you stay warm up there in Elkhart, and thanks for the call.
Thank you. Thanks for doing the show.
812-393-2600 is the number. And again, he was exactly right in that, okay, Indiana lost this game, and that's disappointing, and we'll see how it plays out when it comes to the rankings and the college football playoff and all of that. But folks, keep in mind that Indiana's playing with house money. Picked to finish 17th in the Big Ten. They could lose out and still it will be the best season they've ever had. I don't expect them to do that. I think Indiana's going to bring home the Old Oaken bucket. And there's still a lot of really good football left to be played. Lots of teams struggle. And Lord knows that just being in this position is something that was a little bit unexpected. But here we are. And so, you fall to 10-1 on the season. I don't know that it'll drop them out of the top 10, and it shouldn't. It honestly shouldn't. People will look for excuses for why they should be out of the top 10. And I think, again, that's why Ohio State, I think, was trying to look for a reason to kind of take Indiana out of the equation. But remember that Ohio State has some work to do to beat Michigan next week. And to me, that is something where Indiana, you still want to get back to it and pick up the victory over Purdue. Weirder things have happened. Maybe you get an opportunity to take on Oregon after all. We'll see. Again, I want to get to Curt Cignetti's press conference, but I also don't want to keep our caller waiting for too long. So caller, name, where you're from, and what you got.
Hey, Ken. This is Neil Hood from Seymour, Indiana. How you doing?
I'm good. Neil, how you doing?
I'm good, thanks, bud. This is, I know a lot of longtime IU football fans listen to your show, and this is a tough one for us to swallow. You've got an undefeated IU team, number 5 in the country, an always really good Ohio State team, hasn't lasted at home in, like a decade. IU defense comes out, forces 3 and out. Offense comes out, moves the ball, gets the score. Now, I think looking at that part of the game, a lot of those early first half successes in a large part were due to dumb Ohio State penalties. Hoosiers are capitalizing, but then after that, the wheels just fell off. I mean, we couldn't stop the blitz. Offensive line, they've been solid all year. Dumb special team mistakes. Let me ask you, has James Evans ever dropped a snap?
No, I haven't seen him do that. Yeah.
It's frustrating. I mean, that's a good Ohio State team, but they're always good. I'd expect this year's Michigan team to play Ohio State next week about as well as we did, but it's rivalry week, and it's Michigan, and it's Ryan Day, hadn't beaten Michigan, and that's a big loss for us today by Ole Miss when it comes to the CFP, and it would help if Army could beat Notre Dame tonight and show everybody how good they are. But I'm still focused on the Big Ten, and I think we need to keep an eye out on this Minnesota-Penn State game right now. It's still possible for us to reach that Big Ten championship game.
Exactly. There's a lot still ahead of us, and a lot of football left to be played, and opportunities that are there. And that's why, again, you have Ryan on the chat is busy saying, "Hey guys, let's just be happy to be here." No, and absolutely that I understand what he's saying with that too. From a player standpoint, that's absolutely not how you have to approach it. And from a fan standpoint, again, it was. Ohio State's the better program. That is not anything that I'm going on a limb to say. Indiana played uncharacteristically at times, including, like you said, the James Evans punt. I thought Indiana fumbled the ball a little bit more than they normally do. They looked nervous. They got rattled. There's no question about that. And so being able to overcome those things is a learning curve. And to me, that is what is going to be critical going forward, because again, there's still a ton of time and a ton of football left and a ton of great things that could be accomplished going forward.
Well, absolutely. And the hardest thing for me watching this tonight was felt like a lot of IU football teams from years past. I mean, a lot of the tackling today, so many missed tackles. It reminded me of Tom Allen tackling problems. So that's hard to see, and I would agree with you. Like, IU football fans should not be happy just to be here. We need to go into these games with the mindset that we can win and that we should win. And we've got to carry that mindset into Purdue next week, because I know this is a good IU football team. They had a bad loss today, but they're still a good IU football team. And the Purdue Boilers are not a good football team this year, but it's the bucket game. And how many times has that game, it's anybody's game, regardless of who's winning and who's losing at this point in the season. So, no, we can't be happy just to be here. We still got to win some games, but we can't give up hope either, because there's an avenue to still get there.
Sure. And, changing that mindset, it takes time. You can't expect success until you get it consistently. And so that's a process. I mean, you're absolutely right. It's a process. You should expect to be there. And the key to me is that the players and the coaching staff, I think, absolutely expect to be there. So that's a positive. I really appreciate the call. Thank you so much. And look forward to seeing what the Hoosiers can do next week.
Thanks a bunch, Ken. We appreciate you.
I appreciate you guys. Thanks a lot. 812-393-2600 is the number. I'm going to go ahead and give this a shot now and try to see if I can't bring you Curt Cignetti's full press conference from the post game. Hopefully, I think I figured out how to get this up and running, and I've overcome some of the legal concerns that I had. So let's see. Hopefully this will work. Let me know in the chat if you can't hear me. And here's Curt Cignetti during his post game press conference. It's coming. It's loading up. I swear it is. This is, my computer is all of a sudden giving me a problem. Not a big fan of that. All right, let's try this again. See if we can't do that. Anyway, 812-393-2600 as I work on this, because certainly I want to be able to bring this to you, and we will see.
Things come to an end eventually. I give the Ohio State a lot of credit. They dominated the football game. Thought we got off to a good start, and good football game there for a while, 7-7. Came up with a turnover on defense and a fourth down stop. And then we got a first down on offense at 7-7. And then we come up 3rd and 1. And by all indications, they jumped off sides, which would have given us a first down. But, we got called for the penalty. I'm not sure they made the correct call. And we came up 3rd and 6, and we got sacked. And from that point on, and I'm not saying the game would have been different on that call. That's not what I'm saying at all. That's where the game really changed, I'd say, is around that point. We couldn't protect the quarterback. We had communication errors in pass pro. Every time we dropped back to pass, something bad happened. And it seemed like we were in that end zone to our left for 5 years. It was like a nightmare. We dropped a punt down back there. And really, we were fortunate to go into halftime only 7 points down. And they've been a great third quarter team, Ohio State. Couldn't get anything going still on offense. They had a big punt return. So I was proud of the way we fought back and got it to within 2 scores there, 31-15. But didn't like the fact that we gave up the run and used a touchdown. But they won. They deserved to win. They're a terrific football team. And coupled with the noise, it made it a very, very, very challenging day for us. And I give them nothing but credit.
Zach, the news.
I guess, Curt, I recognize you can't watch film yet, but you talk about really struggling in particular in pass protection. What was Ohio State doing that your line just kind of couldn't solve?
Nothing we haven't seen on tape. We practiced all week. I think you couple it with the noise and having to go to a silent count. because center couldn't hear. And then the speed at which they do it at compared to our scout team, and the pressure of the moment, our guys just didn't respond very well. And sometimes we had missed assignments, sometimes we had communication errors, sometimes we got physically beat. But it wasn't very pretty.
Niz and Matt.
Your team has obviously built a lot of confidence and played that way. Did you feel in this game you were having a harder time, guys, after that turning point in the second quarter, kind of putting plays past you, or at halftime feel like they were deflated at all?
No, I think we came out, I felt good at halftime. And here's how I felt. We were down 14-7, fortunate to be only 7. That's how I felt. And all we had to do is get our feet back on the ground and kind of settle the game down a little bit. And that the longer the game went, the pressure then would shift to them if we could stay, within striking distance. But then they had those scores, we just couldn't respond. We did start to get a little ground game going, but, we'd call a pass and get sacked and get way behind the chains. So I was proud that we scored that last touchdown, and made the 2-point conversion, 31-15. You're kicking an onside kick. Now, who knows, but then, so that's that.
Matt and Ross.
Coach, special teams have been solid all year. You had the drop punt by James, and then the punt return, for a touchdown. I guess, how deflating is that? How frustrating is it? It's almost, the drop punt snap was almost like a turnover.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. 14 points. I mean, we went into the game plus 10 in the turnover ratio, and those are like turnovers, right? Ohio State was plus 4 going in, so the drop punt is definitely like a touchdown. And the punt return, there may have been, a couple nicks in the back that weren't called, but still. It's not good. It's not good football.
Ross on your left and
Kurt,
Pat.
the big thing going into this was about your schedule in the playoffs.
Yeah.
What did you show today?
We didn't handle the noise very well. We just didn't. And they're an excellent football team. And, I didn't think we played our best game today. But I think a big part of that was because of them.
Playoffs?
What about them?
You think your team deserves to be in the
I don't make those decisions. I think it's probably more important right now that I focus on our next game, a big in-state rival against Purdue, who Indiana hasn't beaten in how many years?
19.
Since 19. I think that needs to be everybody's focus.
2019. Pat on your left.
Any thoughts on them scoring that last touchdown?
No, he's got to do what he has to do for his team.
Rick in front.
Yep. The very first drive, you guys were able to move the ball. What changed from that point on?
Yeah, good question, and it's hard for me to recall series 2 and 3. What happened after that, because I think we had some opportunities. We got down in that end zone, that corner of that end zone. It seemed like we were down there. It seemed like we were down there for a quarter and a half, and they were just teeing off on us. And I don't know if it was the silent count and the trigger by the guard, where they were able to time up some blitzes. And we couldn't protect the quarterback. And we were probably throwing the ball a little bit more, didn't try to run the ball. We didn't get anything going on offense. That's really what happened. We got, for probably 5 or 6 series, we got nothing done on offense.
Ravi and Sammy.
Yeah, Coach, what works today? Was it just the blitzes? Was it, you look at passing yards, especially when you subtract sacks. Was that just their blitz package, their rush? Was there some things he didn't see? He just didn't produce?
It becomes a combination of everything. It kind of snowballs on you. One time it's this thing, next time it's that thing.
Sammy on your left and Seth.
Coach, the defense played pretty well. What can you take away from that to bring on to the bucket game and into the postseason?
Yeah, I thought so too. There were a few moments I know the defensive coaches aren't real pleased, but I thought overall, they got some guys now on offense, that can make plays. And, if you take out that last long run, right, when it was 31-15, and basically they were just running 4-minute offense right there. And we didn't running a wedge play. And the guy spits it for 39 yards down to about the 1. You take that run out of there, they're under 300 yards total offense. Not bad. But but now offense and special teams has to carry their share. But I think our defense played hard, and they've been pretty darn consistent all year long, as our football team has too. But we're talking about today.
Seth, right up front, then Daniel.
Yeah, you mentioned the pressure in the moment when you were talking about the pass protection and some of the uncharacteristic things that you guys did today. Did you see that start to wear on your guys at all today? And
no, I think maybe pressure at the moment was the wrong term. Maybe it was the ability of the opponent. And this is a good football team that went to Oregon, lost the last drive of the game at Oregon with a controversial offensive PI call. I mean, this team's loaded. Loaded.
Daniel in front, Jake.
On not handling the noise well, how much of a surprise is that for you? With how old of a roster you have?
No, I thought we'd be able to handle it with our normal cadence based on the reports that we've gotten. But some of the linemen could hear, but the center couldn't, and we had to go silent. It wasn't a problem. I mean, we got the ball snapped.
All right, your last one.
You said earlier that you don't make the decision about who's in the playoff, but you think going into this last week that you should be one of the 12 teams that's in the playoff based on your body of work to this point?
Is that a serious question? Mm-hmm. I'm not even going to answer that. The answer's so obvious.
That you should be.
All right, thanks, Coach.
Thanks, guys.
812-393-2600 is the number. Some very interesting things there by Kurt Cignetti. And again, this is an IU team that is learning along the way when it comes to this level of stuff. Consider that Indiana won 9 games in the past 3 years combined, has put together an absolutely incredible season this year, and this is the first time that they've really struggled, and they struggled against the number 2 team in the country. So tough to really hammer them a lot about that. But let me tell you, this is an IU team that got plenty on the ground. Tyson Lawton, 15 carries, 79 yards, a couple of touchdowns. Justice Ellison, 17 carries, 62 yards. That's something that you could build on, and those are the key numbers in the run game. You know, when you talk about what James Evans and Curtis Rourke, they sucked 56 yards out of the Hoosiers' rushing total and out of their total offense. So you can't put those back in, obviously, but at least you feel that you ran the ball a little bit. Curtis Rourke, 8 of 18, passing for 68 yards. Obviously, Curtis's worst game that he's had here as a Hoosier. In the receiving game, Elijah Surratt, 3 catches for 40 yards. You had Tyson Lawton, 2 catches for 9 yards. Keyshawn Williams, 2 catches for 6 yards. And Miles Price, 1 catch for 13 yards. One thing that I thought was interesting, you had, I believe it was 3rd and 2 in the second quarter, and Indiana got flagged for a false start. It sure did seem like Ohio State jumped off on that, and then Indiana ended up giving up a touchdown shortly thereafter, kind of changed up the momentum. That was a frustrating thing because I went back and I've watched and I've looked for a false start, and I do not see it. And if there is movement, it is definitely after Ohio State came across the line. But that did not cost Indiana the game. I don't want to make it clear that isn't exactly how that works, because that isn't how it is. Was about to go to a caller. He dropped for some reason. So please call back. 812-393-2600. Lines are open. A little frustrated with Indiana's pass defense today. 22 of 26 passing for Will Howard, 201 yards and 2 touchdowns. Nobody had huge plays along the way, but only forcing 4 incompletions, I think, is a point of frustration, to say the least, because the Hoosiers have been decent in defensively and just really struggled in that pass game. Seemed like they were playing a little bit tighter than maybe they normally do. And so that one is kind of frustrating to watch. But now the important thing for the Hoosiers at this point is to flush it. There's nothing you could do to have to go back and win this one. So you move on. You move on and you build off of this thing, because the Hoosiers are still 10-1. They're still going to be ranked probably in the top 10. Again, voters are going to be looking for any reason to dump them down. I truly believe that. And so that is, an issue here. We do have a caller. It just popped into the queue here. So caller, if you give me your name, where you're from, and what you got.
My name is Bruce, and I'm from Indianapolis.
How you doing, Bruce?
Good. I listen to your podcast all the time.
Thank you.
I just actually tuned in here, but I just think that IU just got beat by superior talent. I mean, I think it was really obvious. I mean, and Rourke was just getting blitzed, and I mean, so much pressure. He never had time to throw, and I just didn't feel like we really had a great chance.
Yeah, and that pressure really got to him, and they overloaded things and tried to use their speed to get to him quickly. And I thought that Indiana's running backs did a poor job of pass protecting today. And you had some moments where Indiana's linemen honestly just seemed a little bit surprised by the sheer speed Ohio State had coming off the edge. And that was some of my frustration with that. I know later in the game, Rourke they moved the pocket a little bit. He was able to run a little bit more. And people are like, why they haven't been doing this the whole game? Well, Ohio State was pressuring early, and they had really no time to even move the pocket because they were really struggling. So, yeah, Rourke looked more comfortable later in the game. But I completely agree that this was a situation where Ohio State just has better players, and Indiana wasn't quite ready to win this game. And now the question is, where do they go from here? What are you expecting against the Boilermakers next week, Bruce?
Well, I'll tell you, I actually watched the Purdue game last night, and their quarterback is pretty good, and he throws really well. And if we don't really pressure him, I think this game could be a little more difficult than people think. Plus, this is also their Super Bowl, so...
This is their Super Bowl, but this has been an absolute horrific season for the Boilermakers. And so, yeah, you could pour everything into this one, obviously. But I also think that this is an IU team that's going to be just itching to get that old Oaken bucket back, win it in front of a sellout crowd, and be able to handle their business and prove that this was a one-week hiccup. That's kind of the thing. And Sig certainly, look, he always looks like he's pissed off, but after this one, I think he's going to be really, really focused on that.
Yeah, even though today was disappointing, but I think somewhat predictable, I'm very excited about the future of the program. And I was an NIL donor for the first time, and I'll be donating again. And I just really like the direction that they're moving.
Yeah, you can't help but have a lot of excitement for the future. Bruce, thank you so much for the call, and I appreciate your support with the podcast.
Thank you.
812-393-2600 is the number. Folks, we haven't even had an opportunity to talk about Curt Cignetti and his contract extension. Obviously, it was announced last week. I talked about it on the podcast, but I just wanted to come back and touch base with it because a contract that is averaging $8 million a year, throw in the $1 million retention bonus, and it could be $9 million a year. And all of this really shows that Indiana believes that the Hoosiers are going in the right direction. What I'm looking for, and I also love the fact that it takes away the distraction of the offseason, the questions that might be used against the Hoosiers on the recruiting trail, gives you a solid answer when it comes to the transfer portal. Everything that goes into that, this extension is a positive. It's a huge positive. Now, I do think it's going to be interesting that when you go into next season and the year after that, because Curt Cignetti and his staff brought so many guys from JMU who are veteran players that are veteran in the system, but not necessarily veteran when it comes to playing at Indiana, being able to make sure that you have the right guys in place is going to be really important. The thing that does encourage me about that is Cignetti has done it before when he has changed jobs. He's been able to keep a high level of success for the ball club, and that to me, the Indiana football is in a great place. Yeah, they're 38-15 losers at Columbus this week, and there's frustration, and there's right frustration because Indiana played a game like it hasn't to this point this season with some real uncharacteristic mistakes that were not necessarily forced by Ohio State. Some of it, yeah, it's Ohio State's speed. Some of it is Ohio State's physical play, just sheer talent, all of those things. But these momentum shifts really came from self-inflicted wounds by the Hoosiers. Obviously, the James Evans muff of the punt and snap that went right through his hands, that was brutal. That was just absolutely brutal. And then the fact that Indiana played the entire second quarter in the shadow of its own goalpost did not help, to say the least. You had problems with the fans and all that. That happens to everybody that goes in there. All of it comes together to where this is just a game Indiana wasn't prepared to win. I do appreciate the fact that late in the game, the Hoosiers continued to battle and move the ball and pick up some yards. You know, hey, it is a challenge, to say the least, to get away with what they do. But you know what? The Hoosiers are a team that is still 10-1, still has a lot going on here in the future, and I'm excited for it. 812-393-2600 is the number. The lines are open. I want to hear from you because, again, this is a football program that has a very, very bright future. And so, you know, somebody mentions on the chat, ever since Rourke's thumb injuries, the receivers can't catch a ball. May it be a coincidence or could there be a connection? And I don't think it was a connection. I just think that the Hoosiers have lost some of their, not focus, but certainly a thing where the Hoosiers just need to be able to make sure they're making plays. And that is what has been key, because we have seen more drop passes than we previously had. And so that is a source of frustration, to say the least. 812-393-2600 is the number. We have a caller calling in. Caller, if you give me your name, where you're from, and what you got.
Hi, this is Charlie from Ellettsville.
Hi, Charlie. How you doing?
Ohio State. I'm doing good. Ohio State had a bunch of pass interference calls on one person, and I think that's going to impact them for Michigan. And do you think they're going to sit out that guy for next week on Michigan?
No, I don't think they're going to sit him out. I think that, you know, it's one of those things where he got a little bit handsy and he was flagged for a whole bunch of them. I didn't really see anything that he did that he didn't get flagged for. They're going to work with him. They're going to talk to him. But there's no question that those kind of things, Michigan's going to see it for sure and be able to maybe pick on him a little bit with that. I think you better get ready for that to happen.
Yeah. Well, that's it.
All right. Well, thank you so much for the call. 812-393-2600 is the number. Wanted to mention some things that people have been sending me on Twitter. And just talking about how Indiana played uninspired and sloppy football. I wouldn't say uninspired is the word to use. I don't think that that's the case. I really feel like the Hoosiers just got beat by a better team. They got overwhelmed. They got smacked in the mouth. And being able to bounce back is something that's really important. What I'm wondering about, and it's so crazy because, again, I think it was after the Washington game where I did the whole game recap, got a lot of phone calls from everybody and enjoyed it, and went the whole hour without talking about college football playoff, your rankings, anything that has to do with what the Hoosiers have been dealing with the past week. It's fun to be able to talk about these things. Does Indiana belong in the college football playoff? Where will they drop to in terms of their ranking? All of that goes into it, I think, is interesting. I'm disappointed that Indiana gave up those 14 points through the special teams because it makes it a 38-15 final. You can't obviously take those off the scoreboard. It's part of the equation. But damn, it would be a lot different if it was a 24-15 game than it is 38-15, especially people who are doing the voting and doing all that. And I will tell you about the people who do the voting. Looking at results is pretty much what they do, because a lot of the AP voters, let's face it, they are watching their own games for teams that they cover. They're not going to go back and watch Ohio State and Indiana. They're not going to do that. Guys will go ahead. Oh, they lost. Oh, they lost by Ohio State. Okay, well, this is the first real team that they've played. You know, they're the number 2 team in the country. Obviously, they need to drop a whole bunch. I'm interested to see just how far Indiana drops. The upside is, I mean, look, from a coaching staff standpoint, you could use it as a motivator, to say the least. That's absolutely something that you could do because this is an IU team that is 10-1 on the season and still getting disrespect. And that's something that you can build on as a team. People talk about how Indiana has played one team, has beaten one team with a winning record or a record over 500 all year. You could only beat the teams that are put in front of you. It's the Big Ten. All right, you know, and if the Big Ten's beating up on one another, that doesn't mean that the Big Ten is a bad conference or that these teams aren't good. This is a program that has beaten Michigan, has beaten Nebraska. If you put Indiana's resume up against Ohio State, you think Ohio State would be talking? They'd be talking about dropping them out of the college football playoff? Hell no, they wouldn't, because they're the Buckeyes. Well, Indiana is the Hoosiers, and sometimes you have to build that respect, and they're in the process of trying to do that. You run off 10 straight wins for a team that isn't expected to be there. People will do everything they can to try to make it so that you aren't part of the group of big boys, and we've seen that when it comes to the people dealing with the SEC over the past several weeks. That to me is frustrating. I know that there are a lot of people out there that are national analysts that don't watch a lot of Indiana football, but they have hard opinions about Indiana football because they've seen a few highlights. So, you know, to me, it just really is a matter of the Hoosiers have to just continue to roll. Flush this game as quickly as possible. Finish the season 11-1, which is, you know, damn near a dream. Yeah, they didn't get this one to go, but there's still plenty to play for going forward. 812-393-2600 is the number. Looking through a couple of these older chats, Trenjamin, who's been a listener all season, is fantastic. He says, we only have 10 4- or 5-star recruits. I don't think Indiana has had a 5-star recruit. Has a 5-star recruit on this roster. Ohio State had 45 plus, and at some point that's going to be a major difference maker. Yeah, that's how it comes down. Ohio State's a good football program, and that's why, you know, you want to see a team be able to get it all together and pull off the upset. It didn't happen. It doesn't mean this team isn't worthy. It doesn't mean anything like that. It doesn't even impact how I'm going to view the season. Because this is you lost, and you learn from it, and you move on. You get a chance to finish a season 11-1. You know, it was, I think, 12, 13 years ago that Indiana went 1-11 on the season. And they're sitting here now at 10-1 with a real good chance to go to 11-1, win a bowl game. And, you know, let's see how everything comes by. Ryan Day is a tool on the chat. That's a screen name. I don't believe that's his real name. It says, if we don't beat Purdue by 3 or 4 touchdowns, fire Sig. I don't think that's going to happen. But, yeah, this is a game where you got to go in and you got to play with your hair on fire and just step on their neck. This is a Purdue team that if you look at when they've challenged some teams along the way, losing to Illinois 50-49, losing to Penn State 49-10, losing to Northwestern 26-20, Michigan State 24-17. This is an Indiana team that better hang it on them next week and really get their yayas out to close out the season well. If Kurt Cignetti is going to stand on the basketball court and say Purdue sucks and so does Michigan and Ohio State, you better come to play. And getting 2 out of 3 of those in a season won't be very bad at all. 2 out of 3 ain't bad. I think it was Meatloaf that said that. 812-393-2600. We got a caller. Caller, if you have your name, where you're from, and what you got.
Hey, Ken, from Cincinnati, Ohio. Just wanted to say that IU sucks, and they've never been relevant before, and they never will be.
Oh, well, that's a great way to spend your Saturday. So, it's I wish that it was still like a thing where it was like old minutes where he got that IU sucks and all of that. So, all right, well, they are no, they don't call them the Suck Eyes for nothing. Come see us in basketball. 812-393-2600 is the number. Indiana 38-15 losers this Saturday, but in much the same way that Ohio State was a loser to Oregon, and on most seasons, or Ohio State can get to a title game and get pretty deep, but when your goal is to win a national championship and you don't do it most years, that's kind of a disappointment, is what you're looking at, and it's one of those rare occasions where I'll actually be rooting for the Wolverines next week. 812-393-2600 is the number. One thing that we could talk about is that Indiana has come out of this season, out of this game, looks like healthy. So that's a positive for the games that they have going forward. Curtis Rourke has the thumb, but he's had time for that to heal. And a bigger issue with Curtis Rourke, I feel, this week was just the pressure that he faced, the speed that pressure got to him, and then the wet conditions. Makes it tough to throw the football. Rough time to have his worst outing as a Hoosier, but he still has been really impressive, and I look forward to him putting it on the Boilermakers next week. From a penalty standpoint, Indiana continues to play discipline, just 3 penalties for 15 yards on the day. The Hoosiers had the ball for longer than Ohio State did, but Ohio State was dealing with some short fields that certainly helped them. One thing that I wanted to talk about, too, when it comes to this Indiana defense, chunk plays are a big part of what we talk about. You have these chunk plays are defined as runs of more than 10 yards or pass plays of more than 15 yards. Indiana hasn't given up a ton of those this year, but the Hoosiers are at, for this one, 5 chunk plays, nothing over 26 yards, which that you don't want 5 of those, but they didn't give up that big shot. They gave up a 39-yard touchdown. They only had 2 chunk plays in the run game, one 12-yard gain, and then the 39-yard gain that could have been a 40-yard touchdown. So I don't want to act like that's not isn't there, but just 2 chunk plays. They haven't busted a lot this year, and that's kind of the whole point on that. And they didn't against Ohio State as well. Still a lot of positives to pull out of this game. And I think that, especially for the way Indiana battled through the first half, and they made Ohio State work for absolutely everything they had, and then Ohio State's talent just kind of walked away. That to me was the key on that. They just had that talent there. 812-393-2600. I'll keep the lines open for just a few more minutes. But, the question is now, how many of you expected Indiana to win this bowl game? Yeah, it's disappointing that they lost. I get that, because you want them to do well. But I don't think anybody came into this game circling Ohio State as a real opportunity for Indiana to pull off a win. One of these years they're going to do it. And I could tell you this much. That late touchdown is going to stick with Curt Cignetti. There's no question about that in my mind. That one is going to stick with Curt Cignetti because of the fact that I don't think he was wild about the fact that Ryan Day scored the touchdown. Again, I understand why Ryan Day scored the touchdown, and that may not make a big difference to Ryan Day or any of the Buckeyes or anything else right now. But in terms of being around for several years and what you're trying to do, yeah, let's go ahead. Let's get it on. I understand why Ohio State would ignore Indiana, and it makes sense. It also makes sense why Indiana would look at Ohio State, who's the class of the traditional Big Ten, and want to take a swing at them. Hey, let's go ahead and do it. You want to go ahead and build some hatred there? Hey, you know what? Sometimes that inspires teams. Ohio State has a hell of a lot more talent than the Hoosiers do, and it showed today. Now what you want to do is continue to build this program because, again, if you look at that 2025 IU football schedule, there ain't no Ohio State on it next year. That I don't know if people don't recognize that or don't realize that. Indiana's opponents next year, for the non-conference, they're playing Old Dominion, Kennesaw State, and Indiana State. Their Big Ten opponents are Illinois, Michigan State, UCLA, and Wisconsin at home, and they go on the road to play Iowa, Maryland, Oregon, Penn State, and Purdue. So what you're looking at there is a Michigan State team Indiana's already beat this year, UCLA that Indiana's already beat this year, Maryland that they've already beat this year, Purdue that they damn well better beat next week, and then you have Penn State, Oregon, Iowa, Wisconsin, Illinois. Those are going to be, tough opponents. But if Indiana can continue to play at the level that they have this year, you're looking at that real possibility of stacking seasons, and that is something that is going to be really important. And everything that's gone into this season gets so much more attention in terms of what kind of success can be had in Bloomington. NIL is there. Resources will grow with that. People believe in what Curt Cignetti is doing, and this season allows players to see that you can be involved in this level of game and have that opportunity to battle where you're playing with College Game Day and Big Noon Saturday, their Big Noon Kickoff, whatever the hell they call that outing. One thing you could be thankful for with this game is the fact that it's over and we don't have to listen to Gus Johnson and Joel Klatt basically do a 3-hour recruiting commercial for Ohio State, because that was brutal. That was absolutely brutal. Normally, I don't mind Gus Johnson at all, but I tell you what, it got to be rough after a while. It got to be rough, and I honestly think that, again, this is... they know where their bread's buttered. They also go to see Ohio State a hell of a lot more than they've seen Indiana. So, that's something that is to take into account. But at least we don't have to listen to that anymore. That was really good. Once again, last call. If you got anything to say, 812-393-2600, and we will wrap this up. Indiana's battle against Ohio State came up a loss. Checking right now to see if we have a game time on this Purdue game. It's still TBA. I haven't heard any rumors about it. It's going to be it's a trophy matchup, so they're going to be excited. It's been a long time since there's been this kind of disparity, though, in terms of talent. This is a Purdue team. I keep saying Ohio State, and let's move on from that. A Purdue team that has been awful this year, that is probably looking at a change when it comes to the coaches, everything that goes on. You talk about the tale of two different programs that are going in two different directions. You're going to see it next week. This week, 38-15 is your final. The Hoosiers lose. Their 10-game winning streak comes to an end. Have a chance to get to 11-1 next year, which, let's face it, when Indiana was 6-0, people started looking at that schedule and said, you know what, 11-1 is a real possibility. And I think a lot of people scratched their heads at that point as well. So it's unfortunate they lost. I know Indiana's not going to be happy. Hopefully they learn from it and they'll be able to move forward. But it's more football left to be played. There's going to be at least 2 more games. We'll see what happens with the college football playoff. But we will see how it all plays out, because it's been an exciting season, and I really thank everybody for listening in. We will have post-game call-in shows, a post-game call-in show after that Purdue game. Even though it's just a couple days after Thanksgiving, we'll have that. There won't be call-in shows after the Battle for Atlantis games for the basketball team, but after the football game next Saturday, we definitely will have that, and I'm looking forward to being in the parking lot at Memorial Stadium. Hopefully I'll be able to talk to a bunch of you, because it's been a hell of a lot of fun for our first season doing this call-in show, and I appreciate you all so much. 38-15 is your final. Let's see how it plays out in the bucket game. Well, that's all the time we have on the Peegs Postgame Live. I want to thank you for listening, and I want to remind you to visit Peegs.com for the very best in IU football and basketball coverage you're going to find anywhere. Nobody covers Hoosier recruiting better than Jeff Rabjohns, Matt Weaver, Trevor Andershock, and Jared Kelly. So come be a part of a thriving and exciting... I just lost my train of thought because I was reading a chat. Do we know anything about who may be returning next year? Obviously not Rourke or Kadick. No, we don't know that next year. And, there'll be a ton of new guys in as well. So I got to not continue to read the chat while that goes around. You're welcome for the show, James. I will try again when it comes to doing the outro here, which I do live and I don't read it. It just is off of memory. And sometimes I get distracted because I have a simple mind. Well, that's all the time we have on the Peegs post game this week. I want to thank you for listening, and I want to remind you to visit Peegs.com for the very best in IU football and basketball coverage you're going to find anywhere. Nobody covers Hoosier recruiting better than Jeff Rabjohns, Matt Weaver, Trevor Andershock, and Jared Kelly. So come be a part of a thriving and exciting community at Peegs.com. Folks, you are not going to be disappointed. Folks, we're out of time, but for now, and for Jeff, Matt, Trevor, and Jared, I'm Ken Bykoff saying thanks for listening, everybody.